Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Gaur. So thank you once again, dear devotees, for kindly assembling here. We are discussing Srila Rupa Goswami's Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam and in great detail. And it's a great good fortune to be able to facilitate this series on Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam. Today, we will conclude our second verse of Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam. But before we do that, I'd like to offer a prayer to Sri Rupa Goswami. Nirmathya bhakti pathodhim udhritam bahuyatnatah Upadeshamritam yena tam Shri Rupa upasmahe. We offer worship to Sri Rupa Goswami, by whom the ocean of bhakti was churned and the Upadeshamritam, nectar of instruction, was extracted with great effort. So dear devotees, Sri Rupa Goswami composed Sri Upadeshamritam, and the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, the nectar of devotion, is like a big ocean. And on churning the ocean, there was something very magical. On churning the regular ocean, there was poison that came out first. But when the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu was churned, there was no poison. In fact, what directly came out was Śrī-Upadeśāmṛtam. So dear devotees, we conclude our second instruction today. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyam cha shadhir bhaktir vinashyati. So Sri Rupa Goswami says, Bhakti vinashyati, bhakti is destroyed, shadvihi, by these 6 activities, namely atyahara, overeating or overconsumption, prayasaha, over endeavor for non-devotional gain, prajalpaha, fruitless talks, niyamagraha, neglecting or forcing rules, janasangaha, associating with worldly non-devotee individuals, and finally, laulyam, fickleness of mind. Today, we are going to see what is the meaning of laulyam. And first, we will try to see how the dictionary defines laulyam, and then we will also go to the previous commentators who have explained the meaning of the term laulyam. The term laulyam comes from the term lola. Lola has 2 main meanings in the dictionary. Lola means chalaha. The first meaning is chalaha. Chalaha means fickle. And another meaning is satrashna. Satrashna means greedy, hankering for something. So this is defined in the Amar Kosh. Amar Kosh is the standard lexicon of Sanskrit terms. It says lolas chala satrishnayo. The term lola means chala and satrishna. So both meanings have been given. Fickle and greedy is the meaning of lola. Now, laulya is derived from lola. Laulya means lolasya bhavaha. In English, you add ness, white, whiteness, yellow, yellowness. So bhavaha, the essential feeling of being something. So lolasya bhavaha. So lola-ness. So you add ness to the first meaning, fickleness, and you add ness, greediness. But greediness in English is known as greed, basically. So fickleness or greediness is laulyam. So dear devotees, these are the 2 meanings. Out of these 2, we have seen Sri Rupa Goswami use Laulyam in the context of greed in a verse. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavata mati kriyatam yadi kutopi labhyate tatra laulyam api mulyam ekalam. Rupa Goswami is going to use this laulyam in another verse in Padyavali, which will be quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita. That the only price to pay for Krishna bhakti ras, for a mind infused with Krishna bhakti, is laulyam, the intense greed to achieve it. And we have heard this. Intense greed is the only price to pay. So intense greed in the original Sanskrit is laulyam. Tatra laulyam api mulyam ekalam. So in that verse, laulyam means greed. It has been translated as greed. But we will see here in this verse, the commentators will translate laulyam as fickleness of mind. Therefore, when I also translated it, we did a word-for-word translation. I put the meaning fickleness of mind. That is the primary meaning of laulyam that the commentators are going to take. Otherwise, laulyam also means greed. So greed, we will see, is taken as the meaning of laulyam in other verses. But in this verse, the primary meaning is fickleness of mind. Now, let's see what is the meaning of laulyam as explained by the previous commentators. First, we will take the meaning from the Sanskrit commentator Sri Radharaman Goswami. Sri Radharaman Goswami, he explains laulyam. He says, laulyam chanchalyam tena vyabhicharo lakshyate. Laulyam refers to chanchalyam, fickleness of mind. Tena vyabhicharo lakshyate. This term indicates deviation from the standard path. The standard path which a devotee is expected to follow is bhakti. But if the mind deviates to other paths, so this is indicated by the term laulyam. Then he explains it, further elaborates upon it. He says, tasyapi pomschali chanchalatvavat kadapi jnane kadapi yoge kadapi bhaktau pravrittatvat vinasha hetupvamit. He says, such deviation takes the nature of a fickle-hearted society girl. Society girl, basically a loose girl in the society. She becomes attracted one day to one person, another day to another person, a third day to third person. She has no fixed lover. So such laulyam also takes on the nature of this girl, and a person who has laulyam sometimes becomes inclined to jnana, sometimes to Ashtanga Yoga, sometimes to bhakti. And just as the girl in doing so ends up harming her prospects of marriage, similarly this person in doing so, in switching philosophies regularly, ends up harming his prospects of Bhakti Yoga. So this is the meaning of laulyam as explained by Sri Radharaman Goswami. Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura says, Laulya nana matavadi sanghe asthira siddhanta अर्थात चांचल्य एवं तुच्छ विषय आकृष्ट होया. So he gives two meanings of laulyam. He says laulyam means to develop fickleness regarding the ultimate conclusion of Shastra. Why? Due to associating with people that profess different philosophy. So someday a person stays with a Buddhist, he starts thinking, yes, Buddhism is the best path. Someday a person meets an Ashtanga Yogi, a Hatha Yogi, he starts thinking, yeah, this is the best path. So this is laulyam, fickleness. And he takes the another meaning of laulyam. Evam tuchha vishaya akrisht hoya. It refers to becoming greedy towards tuchha vishaya, trivial sense objects. So greediness towards sense objects is also laulyam. But that greediness towards sense objects we have covered already in the previous verses. So many things have been covered. Therefore, today's focus will be on fickleness of mind and switching philosophies regularly. And then Sri Bhaktivinode Thakura says, Prajalpa haite sadhuninda evam laulya haitei anya deve swatantradi buddhi janita nama paratva. So previously Prajalpa was discussed. Prajalpa is fruitless talks. He says through Prajalpa one becomes a victim of the first offense of nama, first offense towards holy name. What is that? Critiquing the sadhus. Whereas through Laulyam, one starts considering other paths and gods as independent of bhakti and falls prey to another nama aparadha. Because there is another offense to the holy name, to consider other gods as independent of Bhagavan, to consider other paths as independent of bhakti. This is another nama aparadha. So Sri Bhaktivinode Thakura says, through Laulyam, one gets affected by nam aparadha. Now Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakura explains Laulyam. Mukti u bhukti spriha evam laukik indriya samuha cheshtar vritti samuha I Laulya. So he very clearly gives the same two meanings. Laulya is primarily desire for mukti, impersonal liberation, and bhukti, fruitive enjoyment derived from Vedic rituals. So switching philosophies, jnana, karma, etc. And it also refers to greediness, enjoyment tendency of the various senses. This is Laulyam. In Shakespeare's words, there is a very nice quote by Shakespeare. And Shakespeare says in one of his plays, he wears his faith, but as the fashion of his hat, it ever changes with the next block. So this is a person who has Laulyam, who is affected by Laulyam in his or her heart. So he wears his faith on Sundays. He is a good devotee, he attends the temple program, everything. But the next day, just as people change their hats on different days, so similarly, this person changes hats with every new philosophy that he or she encounters in life. They want to be perceived as a person who is all accommodating. They believe that all paths are equally good. No path is inferior, no path is superior. Why be so selective about bhakti? You devotees, you people are biased because you have only experience of bhakti. You don't have any other experience. Come once with me to the Ashtanga Yoga studio. There you'll learn how Ashtanga Yoga is the best. Or come once with me to the local Buddhist center and they'll teach you how Buddhism is the best. So a person in this way does not remain fixed on one philosophy. And although he is a devotee, but still his mind wavers to other philosophies. Now, actually speaking, we are living in the age of excess vikalpas, excess choices. In a previous talk on Upadeshamritam, I had specified that the mind has two functions, vikalpa and sankalpa. Vikalpa means seeing various choices. Sankalpa means selecting one of them. And I had given the example of seeing various YouTube videos in front of us and then clicking on one of them. So those of us who were there in that session might remember that the mind has two basic functions. Vikalpa, seeing all the various choices that are there in front of us and then selecting one of them. Dhāmeśvara, in all fields of life, we are now filled with vikalpas. Prabhu, I'll show you some vikalpas. You make the sankalpa, which one do you like? Right?
Okay, Prabhuji.
So Prabhu, you visit a superstore, right? And all you see in front of you are vikalpas, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. Prabhu, you enter the ice cream section of the superstore and you see so many vikalpas. Which one is your sankalpa going to be, Prabhu? Please tell me.
I'll take the vegan lemon ice cream.
But all ice creams are equally good, right?
It all depends on your individual taste.
Yeah. So on your individual taste, all ice creams are good for respective. So that's what we do in the world outside. I would also say, all ice creams are good. It depends on everybody's individual taste. Very nice. So Prabhu, then you enter into another store and you have so many vikalpas. For which vehicle do you want to drive? Prabhu, what is your sankalpa?
Gas is getting so expensive, I'll take the electric car.
So Prabhu is going to take the electric car because gas is getting expensive. Very nice. Now Prabhu, not only individual things, but the collective stores are also having vikalpas now. Prabhu, which one's your favorite?
Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's. So in this way, today's age is an age of excess vikalpas, excess choices. No matter wherever you see in the world, you are filled with so many choices, and it's become very easy to have multiple options in life. And this has also happened in the field of spiritual life. A person frequently encounters various philosophies such as Karma Yoga, such as Jnana Yoga, Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga is a variation of Ashtanga Yoga. Nowadays, people don't bother so much with Ashtanga Yoga because Ashtanga Yoga means you have to practice the first 2 limbs out of the 8 limbs. What are the first 2 limbs? Yama, Niyama, rules and regulations. So you have to speak the truth, you have to be brahmachari. Those are, now people have done away with that. Now directly 3rd step, asana. So that is Hatha Yoga. So directly start with the asanas, the physical exercises. So that is Hatha Yoga. So this is Hatha Yoga. Then some new age philosophies are also there nowadays. They're very popular. And plus there is Buddhism, and Bhakti Yoga is one of the many options that is available today. So Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, all these are equally good. You can select any one of them. Is it not so?
That is definitely the philosophy of today.
Or just as we said about ice creams, it depends on the individual. Different individuals can select different philosophies according to their inclination. So the same tendency that we have towards ice cream, sometimes individuals have the same tendency towards spiritual philosophies. And therefore, Bhakti Yoga for them ends up being one of the various flavors of ice cream that are available in a superstore. They are devotees. Therefore, it is essential for us to understand that in the age of so many vikalpas, in the age of so many choices, are these really choices, or is there really one choice? So, I will give another example. Suppose Dhāmeśvara Prabhu comes to India. We hope he comes to India every year for Vrindavan. So he comes to India. And Dhāmeśvara Prabhu goes to a superstore in India. Now in India, he sees so many varieties of honey. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, you can select any one variety. Is it not so?
Yeah.
So Dhāmeśvara Prabhu says all of them look almost the same. Some of them have some specific terms: organic, forest, wild. They look pretty bona fide. So you can select any one of them. It's all honey. And then we get an illusion of choice of buying honey in India. Now, after some time, somebody tells Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, Prabhu, did you read the latest news article in India? Says, which article? Prabhu, just see. What does it say? Nearly all the top brands of honey are fake in India, Prabhu. It's nothing but Chinese corn syrup marketed as honey. So, nearly almost all of them have failed the test of purity in India. And they may be using these fancy terms, honey and wild and whatever. They have failed the test. That is, it looks like honey, but it is actually Chinese corn syrup. That is what it is actually. 1 or 2 brands passed in one test, but still they are not real honey. So I also, for many years I was thinking that I am eating honey in India. Then I realized that what it is Chinese corn syrup. And this is what people do with any field of spirituality too. As soon as they are able to find one marketable package of spirituality, people open a new shop and market their spirituality, so that they can make money out of it. And this is happening in the world today. Dear devotees, it's a very bitter pill to digest, but we have to come face to face with reality. Whenever something is marketed, targeted for the masses, whenever somebody wants to target something for the masses, especially in the material world, they cannot do so without heavily compromising on quality. Dear devotees, this is an understandable fact. Quality is actually acquired through local and small scale industries. But in today's world, where people are mass manufacturing everything, where industrial revolution has taken over everything, you will rarely get good quality. And therefore, the best way of getting good quality honey in India is to approach a local beekeeper. And I went once to a local beekeeper, and he, in front of my eyes, took out honey and then gave it to me. And then after many years, I actually had pure honey in my life. So dear devotees, we think we have many choices in spiritual life. But if we scratch the surface and look deeply within these choices, we will realize that actually we don't have many choices. Now, let's go back to our main topic, that there are so many philosophies in life that are available to us. And so many people are giving so many philosophies. Just see yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. You go to the United States, in every county or every state, you will find people have renamed yoga to a specific name of theirs. And there they are marketing, a variety of Ashtanga Yoga, or, their own concoction of Ashtanga Yoga, and selling it in the name of bodily fitness. And dear devotees, this is not only with Ashtanga Yoga. Today, every type of spiritual practice has become commodified in the world outside. We are intent on selling each and everything that can be marketed. In such an age, it is very difficult to find true, genuine, 100% unadulterated spiritual instruction, which will truly benefit us in the next life as well as in this life. Therefore, there's a very nice verse about many choices, which is there in the Matsya Purana. It's spoken by Indra, and he says, vikalpa matra vasthane vairupyam manaso bhavet paschan mula kriyarambha gambhiravarta dustara. He says, vikalpa matra avasthane. When the mind thinks only of multiple choices, it becomes happy when it thinks of multiple choices. But vairupyam manaso bhavet, it becomes deviated from its fixed position. Actually, the function of the mind is to fix itself on one particular position. But when so many vikalpas, multiple choices are presented, it becomes deviated, vairupyam bhavet. Then what happens? Paschat, as a result, mula kriyarambha, all endeavors commenced by an individual become surrounded by great whirlpools of uncertainties and difficulties. So in everything that we do, just because we have so many choices, our mind feels happy. Our mind thinks that now I can focus myself on so many of these choices. But in fact, the dharma of the mind is to be able to focus only on one choice properly. And when the mind sees so many choices, it thinks that it will be equally able to focus on all these choices. In fact, it cannot. In a superstore, when we see so many varieties of honey, we become happy because we think so many can be enjoyed by me. But in the end, we don't end up buying all of those bottles of honey. We end up buying only one. So the mind only gets an illusion of the various choices of enjoyment. Finally, the enjoyment it is going to get is only one. So this illusion of choice, it gives result to a lot of uncertainty in one's life. Now, even in Bhakti Yoga, there are some people who have come not as serious sadhakas. They have come here to just check it out. On Sundays, what's going on? Let's just check it out. And on other days, I'll associate with other individuals, other philosophies, other groups. On Sundays, I'll come to the local Hare Krishna temple and try to be a devotee. So there are some people who have bought this tendency of vikalpa and enjoyment even in the domain of Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Krishna says for such individuals, Bhogaishwarya prasattanam taya apahrita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhau na vidhiyate. In the Bhagavad Gita, he is speaking about vyavasayatmika buddhi, one-pointed intelligence. But those who come with an intention to enjoy everything, this one-pointed intelligence is not for them. Srila Prabhupada translates, in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. And without resolute determination, it is impossible to attain perfection in bhakti. This is why Sri Rupa Goswami is highlighting Laulyam. Sri Rupa Goswami's intention is not to increase his follower count. His intention is not that, to prevent people from leaving bhakti. His intention is to tell the serious candidates, please stop looking elsewhere. Because the moment you start looking elsewhere, what happens is that you are losing out on your bhakti. And therefore, Sri Rupa Goswami wants to address all the serious candidates that they should not be affected by Laulyam, because ultimately all of us have to attain samadhi. And without attaining samadhi, it is not possible to become perfected in any form of yoga, including devotional service. Now, let's check out some other schools of yoga, dear devotees. One of the most famous schools of yoga is Hatha Yoga, or performing so many asanas to keep your body fit. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, what is the eligibility for Hatha Yoga? Please tell me.
I don't know, Prabhuji. You want me to guess?
Yeah, as it is advertised in the West, in India, enter a studio. What's the eligibility for Hatha Yoga?
All you need is a yoga mat.
Right. So you just take a yoga mat, and you need money, Prabhu. They won't admit you.
Okay, yeah.
So you need money and you need a yoga mat. And thereby, you can successfully become a Hatha Yogi. They will also give you a certificate if you train with them, that you have certified in Hatha Yoga. So dear devotees, many people think that I can become a Hatha Yogi like this, sitting in front of the TV, practicing yoga asanas in my own sweet home. Dear devotees, now let's see what is the reality. The person who wrote the standard manual on Hatha Yoga, his name is Sri Swatmaram. From his book Hatha Yoga Pradipika, all the asanas of yoga have been taken. Now, however, cleverly all the eligibility has been removed and only asanas are shown. Let's go to Sri Swatmaram's own text, Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and let's see what Sri Swatmaram says about the eligibility for Hatha Yoga. And after we see the eligibility, I will ask Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, how many in America as well as in India are eligible for this practice of Hatha Yoga? So let's see what Sri Swatmaram says. Let's go to the sources and see what Sri Swatmaram says about Hatha Yoga's eligibility. He says, Hatha Vidya Param Gopya Yogina Siddhimicchata Bhaved Viryavati Gupta Nirviryatu Prakashita Surajye Dharmike Deshe Subhikshe Nirupadrave Dhanuh Praman Paryantam Shilagni Jalavarjite Ekante Mathika Madhye Sthathavyam Hatha Yoginam. Hatha Yoga, Hatha Vidya Param Gopya. He says Ekante Mathika Madhye. The Hatha Yogi desirous of success must keep his yoga practice extremely secret. So any Hatha yogi who wishes to attain success must keep his yoga practice extremely secret. Can't advertise it, can't make a living out of it, dear devotees. He has to keep it secret. Now, he says, Bhaved Viryavati Gupta. Yoga is potent when kept secret. Only when it is kept secret, then only it becomes potent. And Nirvirya, ineffective to Prakashita, when it is revealed injudiciously to anyone and everyone. So it becomes ineffective. Hatha Yoga practice. Then where should a yogi live? He says, Ekante Mathika Madhye. The yogi should live completely secluded in a small matha, in a small thatched cottage that he creates for himself. Where? In a place free from rocks, water, fire, to the extent of a bow's length. The yogi should stay in a virtuous, well-ruled kingdom which is prosperous and free from disturbances. This is right there in the Hatha Yogi Pradipika, first chapter, 11th and 12th verses. Dear devotees, this is the eligibility for practicing Hatha Yoga. This was right there in the beginning. After this, the 13th verse says, Atyahara prayasascha prajalpanyam agra janasangascha laulyam cha shadvir yoga vinashyati. I had shown this when we began this series on the second verse. That Swatmaram gives the same 6 things which harm yoga practice. But just before that verse, Sri Swatmaram had given the eligibility for practicing Hatha Yoga. Now, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, how many are actually eligible for Hatha Yoga?
Hardly any, Prabhuji.
Right. So I am showing this from their very texts. Now you can take this, you can print this slide, you can take it to any yoga studio, Hatha Yoga studio, and you can ask them, see, this is the eligibility for Hatha Yoga as mentioned in the Yoga Shastras. Then they will say, well, it's okay, we have a new age system of yoga where everybody is welcome, we don't place such restrictions on anybody. But these restrictions are important for attaining perfection in Hatha Yoga. And therefore, we don't see people getting the result today. The result of practicing Hatha Yoga is Samadhi. The final stage of yoga is Samadhi. People don't achieve anything close to Samadhi. This is because they are not following the system as given by the previous authorities correctly. So, we have an illusion of choice. My whole point of saying this is, we may have an illusion of choice that we have so many philosophies with us today. But actually, it's like the honey being sold in India. Most of it is simply Chinese corn syrup. Similarly, most of the Hatha Yoga, which is sold in the West, is not Hatha Yoga at all. It is basically a completely concocted version of Hatha Yoga, which does not follow even the basic principles of eligibility of Hatha Yoga. Actually, sometimes devotees say that even though we are not Hatha Yogis, still it is good for the body, so we should practice it a little bit. So, the answer is given by Krishna himself in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna says something in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, Yogam nishevato nityam kayaschet kalpataniyat tachadhadhyan namatiman yogam usrijya matparaha. He says, Yogam nishevato nityam. Although the physical bodies may be improved by various processes of yoga, an intelligent person who has dedicated his life to me does not place his faith in the prospect of perfecting his physical body through yoga. In fact, he gives up such paths in the long run. So, although some immediate benefit may be there, and devotees may be practicing it for some immediate benefit, some devotees may be practicing some Ashtanga Yoga and only the asana part of Ashtanga Yoga for some immediate benefit. But long-lasting benefit is not going to be there. Bhagavan Shri Krishna himself has said that one who has put his faith in me should not put faith in the long run in such other paths. Now, let's see what is the eligibility for Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is another path. In this path, we realize that everything is Brahman, Brahma. There's only one reality, that is the impersonal Brahman. Nothing else exists. All forms are illusory. All names are illusory. Only one entity exists. That is the impersonal Brahman. Dear devotees, this philosophy is known as Jnana Yoga, the philosophy of monism, impersonal realization of the absolute truth. And what is the ultimate aim of Jnana Yoga? The ultimate aim of Jnana Yoga is mukti, to get impersonal liberation, to merge with that Brahma, to become one with that absolute truth which is known as Brahman. What is Brahma? Sarvam khalvidam Brahma. Everything that you see around you is Brahman. The chair on which you are sitting is Brahman. The computer in front of which you are sitting is Brahman. What you are seeing around you, the walls are Brahman. Everything is Brahman. But why has it taken so many forms? The chair, the wall, etc. They are all illusion, products of Maya. Once you realize, once you break through the illusion, you will realize that no form, no qualities, no name, nothing exists. Everything, only one entity will exist, which has no name, no form, no qualities, nothing. That entity is denoted as Brahman. Actually, it has no name, but for the sake of denoting it, we have to give it a name. So that entity is known as Brahma. And the ultimate aim for Jnana Yoga, for a Jnana Yogi, is mukti. Mukti means getting liberated and achieving Brahman. But what is the eligibility? The eligibility is specified in their literature itself. So there are many Vedanta societies in the world today which are highlighting Jnana Yoga. But dear devotees, if you ask them what is the true eligibility for mukti, then some of them, not all of them, some of them may tell you what is the true eligibility for mukti. In a literature named Jivan Mukti Vivek, it is clearly specified what is the eligibility for mukti, liberation through Jnana Yoga. Vakshe vividishanyasam vidvanyasam cha bhedatah hetu videha muktescha jivan muktescha taukramat. In Jivan Mukti Viveka, in the immediate second verse, it says, I will now speak of two types of sannyas, Vividisha sannyas and Vidvat sannyas. Two types of sannyas are spoken. The former leads to ultimate liberation even after giving up the body, and the latter leads to Jivan Mukti, liberation even in this body. So the criteria for Jnana Yoga is sannyas. You cannot be a householder. And if you don't believe me, just see who is the personality who propagated Jnana Yoga in India. He was Sri Adi Shankaracharya, who propagated Jnana Yoga in India. And none of his disciples were householders. There was one householder who debated Adi Shankaracharya, who had a debate with Adi Shankaracharya. His name was Kumarila Bhatta, a very learned scholar of the Vedas. And he was taking sides with Karma Kand. And Sri Adi Shankaracharya took sides with Jnana Yoga. And Sri Adi Shankaracharya came out victorious. And when Sri Adi Shankaracharya came out victorious, so not Kumarila but Mandan Mishra. So Mandan Mishra then surrendered to Adi Shankaracharya. And Mandan Mishra, as soon as he surrendered to Adi Shankaracharya, the first thing that Sri Adi Shankaracharya did was give him sannyas. Sri Adi Shankaracharya did not have any grihastha as his disciple. And therefore, Sri Adi Shankaracharya established 4 monasteries in India. Till today, none of the monastery is ruled by or is presided over by a grihastha. They are all presided over by sannyasis. So all those whom you have seen, Vedanta societies, see who are their leaders. Their leaders will not be a grihastha. Their leaders will be a sannyasi, because they know very clearly that the eligibility for entering into Jnana Yoga is you should give up all karma. You should give up grihastha ashram. So 99% of the people fail the eligibility test because they are not in the sannyas ashram, dear devotees. Therefore, although we have an illusion of choice that we can go to a Hatha Yoga studio, if we see the original text of Hatha Yoga, 99% will become ineligible. Although we have an illusion of choice that we can become one with Brahman by joining this particular Vedanta society, the actual scriptures of Vedanta tell you that without taking sannyas and giving up everything, there is no possibility of attaining mukti. But these things are not told to the newcomers. Why? Because if these things are told on day one, then people will never join. And it is good to let people have an illusion of choice, because that is good for business, dear devotees. They will never do something which is not good for business. And therefore, the same litmus test that we made Hatha Yoga and Jnana Yoga pass through, we should also put Bhakti Yoga through the same litmus test, dear devotees. And we will also see what is the criteria for eligibility criteria for Bhakti Yoga. So, dear devotees, let's put Bhakti Yoga through the same test and ask the original authorities of Bhakti Yoga, what is the eligibility for entering into Bhakti Yoga? Sri Rupa Goswami doesn't mince his words and very clearly says in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu the following about eligibility for entering into Bhakti Yoga. He says, Shastratah shruyate bhaktau drimatrasya adhikarita sarvadhikaritam magha snanasya bruvata drishtantita vashishtena haribhaktir nripam prati. Shastratah shruyate, from the Shastra it is heard, Nrimatrasya adhikarita, that all humans are eligible for bhakti. My goodness. So Rupa Goswami, no qualification. You have to be a human being. This is the qualification. So one question should be asked. Are you a human being? So if somebody says yes, congratulations, you can become a bhakti yogi. Rupa Goswami, somebody may be surprised. How is it so? Such a easy qualification. Rupa Goswami says not only Bhakti Yoga, there are many things in Shastra which are for all human beings. Like what? He gives the example of Magh Snan. He says just as all humans are eligible for Magh Snan. Now what is Magh Snan? In the month of Magh, is December, January, around that time. It's a very, it's the winter season, it's very cold. Now there is a specific place in India called as Prayag. Prayag is where the three rivers Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati meet. In the month of Magh, to go to Prayag, and for one entire month, every morning during Brahma Muhurta, taking a bath in that holy confluence of three rivers is known as Magh Snan. It is said that simply by mentally thinking of Magh Snan, all of one's sinful activities are burnt away. What to speak of actually performing Magh Snan? If one simply mentally thinks of Magh Snan, all of one's sins are burnt away. What to speak of actually staying for 1 month in Prayag, in Allahabad, in India, and performing Magh Snan. It is actually a very purificatory act mentioned in Shastra. Sri Rupa Goswami has Shraddha, immense faith in Magh Snan. Just as Magh Snan, they will not ask you who you are before you enter into the river. They will not ask you. Similarly, for Bhakti Yoga, nobody will be asked, which family do you come from? What is your ashram? Have you taken sannyas? Are you planning to reside in a forest? Nobody will ask you this. So just as everybody is eligible for Magh Snan, similarly, everybody is eligible for the practice of Bhakti Yoga. Dear devotees, therefore, we have seen that the maximum transformation that actually occurred in the lives of people occurred not through Hatha Yoga, not through Jnana Yoga, but occurred only through Bhakti Yoga. Srila Prabhupada was not the first person to come from India to the West to propagate a philosophy. Before Srila Prabhupada, there were many individuals who came from India to the West in order to propagate Ashtanga Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Jnana Yoga, etc. Now you see the followers of those particular individuals and how much were their lives transformed to come close to the Vedic standard. And you will see that although many of them were good students, they followed Hatha Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga nicely. But when it comes to coming close to the Vedic lifestyle, when it comes to attaining actual true transformation in their lives, a revolutionary change, the most revolutionary change was effected by the practice of Bhakti Yoga. People gave up their eating habits, former eating habits, transformed their eating habits. People transformed their sleeping habits. People transformed so many of their other day-to-day habits. People completely changed, mainly with the influence of Bhakti Yoga. Today, dear devotees, the most positive influence, people giving up negative activities, meat eating, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex, all this has been done through the practice of Bhakti Yoga and Bhakti Yoga alone. Bhakti Yoga was able to successfully transplant an entire culture from India and to other countries in the world. And this culture was not meant to overtake other cultures or erase other cultures. This culture was meant to benefit all other cultures in the world, dear devotees. So it was only possible through the practice of Bhakti Yoga. And this is why Rupa Goswami's qualification, all humans are eligible, and we can see that all humans are eligible for Bhakti Yoga. Actually, Bhakti Yoga is mentioned as the royal highway of perfection in the scriptures. Sri Vyasadeva, in the 11th canto, he is describing a conversation between the Navayogendras and Nimi Maharaj. And they say something to Nimi Maharaj. What do they say? They say, Yanasthaya naro rajan na pramadyeta karhichit dhavan nimilyavanetre naskale na pateriha. Yanasthaya naro rajan, O king, one who accepts the process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, na pramadyeta, will never blunder on his path in this world. Dhavan nimilyavanetre, even while running with his eyes closed, naskale na patet, he will never trip or fall. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, what does it mean that you can run with your eyes closed on the path of Bhakti Yoga?
I think it means that you're so assured of ultimate success that you can really just give your full energy towards it and not hold back. You can be fully confident.
Right. So, on the path of Bhakti Yoga, you can give your 100%. The Acharya said, Dhavan, running is something else. You know, there is something known as light running, sprinting, wherein, you put one foot and then you raise the other foot. And then when the other foot is on the ground, then you raise the first foot. And then there is Dhavan. Running means sometimes both your feet are in the air. So, you're running so fast. That is what Dhavan means. And even when with both the feet in the air, you don't have the risk of falling down because the pathway is very smooth and well tested. Srila Sridhara Swami explains the confidential meaning behind what is the meaning of keeping both eyes closed. Srila Sridhara Swami says, Shruti smriti ubhe netre vipranam parikirtite ekena vikalakano dvabhyam andha prakirtitah. Shruti smriti ubhe netre. One of the eyes of a Brahmana is the Shruti, the Vedas. Another eye of the Brahmana is Smriti, the other literature like Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc. These are the two eyes of the Brahmanas. One who has not learnt any one of these is known as Karna, one-eyed. And one who hasn't learned both of these is Andha, completely blind. So dear devotees, in order to traverse on the path of spiritual life, you need to have at least knowledge of Shruti or Smriti. But if you don't have this knowledge, if you don't have one of these, you are known as Kanaha, partially blind. And if you don't know both of these, you are Andha, completely blind. But a person who is Andha, completely blind, means one who has not studied either the Shruti or the Smriti, can confidently run on the path of Bhakti. He doesn't have to learn anything else. So that is the meaning of running with your eyes closed. Try to do that with Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means you have to understand what are the various rituals for pleasing the Supreme Lord. Without understanding the various rituals from Shruti and Smriti, you will definitely fall on the path of Karma Yoga because you don't know what to do. Karma has to be understood according to Shastra. For Jnana, you have to learn what is Brahman, which entity is Brahman. That entity is described in the Upanishads. And if somebody who doesn't learn what is Brahma, what is the absolute truth, that person will definitely fall. But a person who doesn't have both types of knowledge will happily run on the path of bhakti. Therefore, all humans are eligible, even those who are blind. Blind here, Sridhar Swami has correctly explained, they do not have knowledge of the Shruti, neither do they have knowledge of the Smriti literature. So they can freely run on the path of Bhakti Yoga and achieve perfection. In fact, Srila Jiva Goswami says that if you look in all traditions of the world, let's go outside Vedic tradition. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, you might have studied some other traditions such as Christianity, and you might have heard something about other traditions. So Prabhu, does Christianity have a concept of Ashtanga Yoga?
No, I don't think so.
Does Christianity have a concept of Jnana Yoga and merging into one absolute truth?
No.
Does Christianity divide the society into varnas and ashramas and tells everyone to offer everything to the Supreme Lord?
Not really.
Does Christianity teach devotion?
Yes.
So Sri Jiva Goswami says, if there is one yoga which is consistently present, benefiting all races of human beings, there is only one yoga, dear devotees, and that yoga is Bhakti Yoga. Sri Jiva Goswami quotes a verse from the Linga Purana in his Bhakti Sandarbha. Alodya sarva shastrani vicharya cha punah punah idamekam sunishpannam dhyeyo narayana sada. Alodya sarva shastrani, after flipping through pages of all scriptures in the world, and vicharya cha punah punah, and meditating repeatedly on the ultimate conclusion. Ekam eva sunishpannam, it is now firmly determined by those who studied everything, that dhyeyo narayana sada, that Bhagavan Narayan should always be meditated upon. The Supreme Lord should always be meditated upon in the spirit of devotion. This is the conclusion of all literature. So Bhakti Yoga is the conclusion of all the literature in the world. Sri Jiva Goswami says, let me push the argument further. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, can an insect perform Ashtanga Yoga?
No.
Can a bird perform Jnana Yoga?
No.
Can an animal perform Karma Yoga?
No.
Can all of these perform Bhakti Yoga?
Yes.
How can an insect perform Bhakti Yoga?
By hearing.
But he doesn't understand anything.
It's not required that you understand anything. You just have to hear the sound.
Yeah. Or a very simple example. By consuming prasadam, can all of these entities execute Bhakti Yoga? The answer is 100% yes. Sri Jiva Goswami says, therefore, we were earlier saying that Bhakti is only for humans. The eligibility is humans. Forget about humans. We'll make it for all living entities in the universe. Anybody can engage in Bhakti. Kita pakshi mriganam cha harau sanyasta chetasam urdhvam eva gatim manye kim punargyaninam nrinam. Sri Jiva Goswami quotes Garud Purana and says, kim punargyaninam, what to speak of learned men, even those insects, kita, birds, pakshi, and animals, mriga, who have dedicated their hearts to Hari are destined to an extremely elevated destination. So, hence proved that all these living entities can be benefited only by one yoga, Bhakti Yoga. Dhāmeśvara Prabhu, are you satisfied that Bhakti is a universal process?
Yes.
Some people may still not be satisfied. So Sri Jiva Goswami pushes the argument further. Jiva Goswami says, even those who are materially attached can indulge in Bhakti. Nowadays they falsely say, those who are materially attached can become a Hatha Yogi. But if you read Swatmaram's text, you will realize that this is not the case. Nowadays they falsely say, anybody who is materially attached can become a Vedantist. But if you read the actual text of Jnana Yoga, you'll realize that a sannyasi is eligible for Jnana Yoga. Actually, bhakti can also be for those who are materially attached. What is the praman? Sri Jiva Goswami quotes Krishna's own words in the 11th canto. Badhyamanopi madbhakto vishayairachitendriyah prayah pragalbhaya bhaktya vishayairnabhibhuyate. Badhyamanopi madbhakto, my dear Uddhav, if my devotee has not fully conquered his senses, vishayair achitendriya, he may be harassed by material desires. But prayah pragalbhaya bhaktya, but because of his unflinching devotion, if he doesn't take to other paths, remains unflinchingly in bhakti, vishayair na vibhuyate, he will not be defeated by sense gratification. He will emerge victorious, Uddhav, even if he is materially attached. Try doing this with Jnana Yoga, and you'll end up a complete failure. Try doing this with Hatha Yoga, and you'll only end up being a person who's practicing exercises in front of the TV. But in Bhakti Yoga, your royal highway to perfection has been carved out. Therefore, today I am emphasizing that what is the actual true honey amidst all the Chinese corn syrups that are available in the market, dear devotees. Now, Sri Jiva Goswami says, not only this, I'll drive the argument further. In all ages, it was bhakti that helped humankind. He quotes the Srimad Bhagavatam again. Kriteya dhyayato vishnum tretayam yajato makhai dvapare paricharyayam kalau tat hari kirtanat. Dhāmeśvara, what was the process for attaining perfection in the age of Satya?
Meditate on Vishnu.
On Vishnu, dhyanam, smaran of Vishnu. In Treta,
offering sacrifices.
Atma Nivedanam, everything offering to Vishnu. In Dwapara,
deity worship.
Archanam. And in Kali Yoga,
Hari Kirtan.
Kirtanam. Within the 9 processes of bhakti, one of these processes was applicable for each and every age. In the age of Satya, Dhyanam or Smaranam. In the age of Treta, Atma Nivedanam, offering everything that one has in sacrifice. In the age of Dwapar, Paricharya, Archanam. In the age of Kali, Kirtanam. This is the translation. Whatever result was obtained in Satya Yoga by meditating on Vishnu, in Treta by performing sacrifices, and in Dwapar by deity worship, can be obtained in Kali Yuga simply by Kirtan of Sri Hari's name, forms, qualities, pastimes, etc. So dear devotees, Bhakti Yoga is a universal process meant not only for all people, not only for all places, but all times. In each and every age, there has been one yoga that has helped humankind to achieve perfection. That is Bhakti Yoga. What more to say? Sri Jiva Goswami says, in all situations, even within human life, in all situations of life, you may be able to execute Bhakti Yoga. Let's drive the argument further. Let's see the genius of Sri Jiva Goswami. Sri Jiva Goswami says, he asks a question, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu. Let's say somebody is in the womb. His human life has already started. Which yoga can they execute? Karma Yoga?
No way.
Jnana Yoga?
No.
Ashtanga Yoga?
No.
Bhakti Yoga?
Yes.
Yes. Garbhe, in the womb, Shri Narada Karita Shravane Prahlade Prasiddham. Prahlad is an example of a devotee who executed bhakti even within the womb. In the 3rd canto, when people are, it is described that the rebirth of a conditioned soul is described in the 3rd canto. It is said that in the womb, the child prays to the Supreme Lord, "Oh Bhagavan, I will not do this again. Please relieve me of this situation." So all those who were Ashtanga Yogis, who were Jnana Yogis, who were Karma Yogis in their previous lives but could not attain perfection, on entering another womb, they take shelter of Bhakti Yoga. Because Bhakti Yoga is the only form of yoga that can be performed even within the womb. Now, Balye, in childhood, which form of yoga can be performed? Karma Yoga can be performed? The answer is no, because you don't have eligibility for karma. You don't, till that time, you don't have an ashram. You don't have exactly a varna. So you don't have eligibility for karma. You cannot have eligibility for jnana because you don't take sannyas at that age, usually. And usually people don't leave for the forest at that age. But Dhruva Maharaj, he executed in his childhood Bhakti Yoga. Prahlad Maharaj also in his childhood executed Bhakti Yoga. These are examples of individuals who were able to execute Bhakti Yoga. Yauvane, in youth, a good time for enjoying life. Srimad Ambarish Radhav, Ambarish Maharaj executed Bhakti Yoga in the prime of his youth. Vardhakya, in old age, it is not possible to easily execute Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Therefore, Sri Jiva Goswami says Dhritarashtra in his old age, when he lost everything. At that time, Vidur came and chastised Dhritarashtra, get out of here and go to the forest and meditate on Bhagavan Hari. And he went to the forest along with Gandhari, and both of them meditated on Bhagavan Hari and attained perfection by meditating on Bhagavan. In this way, Dhritarashtra, even in old age, attained perfection. Marane, somebody is about to die. Prabhu, few breaths remaining. Which yoga will help you? Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga? Which yoga will help a person who is just about to die?
There's no hope to practice those at that time.
So, there's only one form of yoga that can help us just before death. That is Bhakti Yoga. Classic case is Ajamil, who had no time for beginning the practice of Ashtanga, Karma or Jnana Yogas. But he performed Bhakti Yoga and a semblance of Bhakti Yoga. Not even direct Bhakti Yoga, a semblance of Bhakti Yoga, and got perfection. Swargitayam, even after death, forget before death, after death, somebody goes to heaven. Jiva Goswami says Chitraketu. Chitraketu executed Bhakti Yoga even in heaven. So even in the heavenly planets, there is no scope for executing Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. It's a place of enjoyment. Chitraketu, two girls in two arms, sitting on an airplane, and he is singing songs of Hari. He is singing glorifications of Hari. So he is seated in an airplane, two arms around two beautiful girls of heaven, and he is executing Bhakti Yoga. Of course, we may call that Sahajiya, but for heavenly planets, it is allowed. We are devotees. Therefore, Chitraketu in heaven with two arms around two girls, singing the glories of Hari, he is executing Bhakti Yoga. What to speak of heaven? Narakitayam api, even in hell, Jiva Goswami says. There are verses in the scriptures where it is described. Yatha yatha harer nama kirtayanti sma naraka, tatha tatha harau bhaktim udvahanto divam yuyu. As the residents of hell chanted the names of Hari, gradually by the influence of the sadhus, they went ahead, they went above and attained the heavenly planets. And some of them even attained the spiritual world. In this way, in all conditions of life, life insurance is only till you are, it only covers one life. But bhakti is insurance for all species, all times, all places, and all situations in life. Finally, Sri Jiva Goswami says, even in all activities, all noun cases of grammar, bhakti is what lends perfection. This is slightly technical. Now, I'll need your help, Dhāmeśvara Prabhu. In grammar, a noun is a person, a place, an animal, entity is known as noun. A noun takes various roles in grammar. Let's see the various roles. First, nominative, karta, subject of the verb. Prabhu, we all know what is subject of the verb in English grammar. For example, I give you a sentence. He kills a Brahmana. I say, Devadatt kills a Brahmana. Who is the subject of the verb?
He.
Yeah. Will he get a positive result or negative result?
Negative.
Okay. Now put bhakti in that. He performs bhakti. Yo bhaktim karoti. What will he get?
Prema.
Positive result. All right.
Positive result.
Now, yes. Second, accusative, object of the verb. He kills a cow. Now, who is the object in this sentence?
Cow.
Cow. The cow got a positive result or a negative result?
Negative result.
All right. Let's put bhakti in that. He offers the cow to Bhagavan. So, now, The cow is the object. Does the cow get a positive result or negative result?
Positive result.
Positive result. All right. Third case of grammar, instrument. You use somebody as instrument to get something done. He got the Brahmana murdered through Devadatta. Devadatta was the instrument. All right. So he engaged Devadatta in killing the Brahmana. The Devadatta is the instrument. Prabhu, Devadatta is going to get positive result or negative result?
Negative.
Okay. He made a donation to the Hare Krishna temple through the hands of Devadatta. Now again, Devadatta is the instrument, is executing bhakti. The instrument gets a positive result or negative result?
A positive result.
Positive result. So even in the instrumental case, when bhakti is there, it gives positive result. Fourth is dative. When somebody receives something, that is called as dative case. Let me give an example. He gives $1 million of stolen money to Devadatta. So here Devadatta is the receiver. All right. So Prabhu, Devadatta is going to get a positive result or negative result?
Negative.
Okay. He gives Mahaprashadam to Devadatta. Now is Devadatta going to get positive result or negative result?
Positive result.
Positive result. Ablative. When something is snatched away from something, something is broken away from something. For example, when a leaf breaks from the tree, so that tree is in the ablative case. So for example, I take $10,000 from Devadatta. From Devadatta, I've taken it away from Devadatta. Devadatta is in ablative case. Devadatta received a positive result or a negative result?
Negative.
Okay. I took $10,000 from Devadatta with his permission and offered it to Bhagavan. Devadatta gets a positive result or negative result?
Positive result.
Positive result. Sambandha. Something, sometimes, not you directly, but somebody connected to you does something. For example, Devadatta's son murdered a Brahmana. Right? So the son is definitely going to get a negative result. And is Devadatta going to be happy or unhappy in life?
Unhappy.
Right. Devadatta's son executes Bhakti Yoga. Will Devadatta get a good result or negative result?
Positive result.
Positive result. Finally, locative. Something within someone, something is known as locative. Let me, for example, let me give an example. Greed resides within Devadatta. Lust resides within Devadatta. Devadatta is the location, locative. So, is Devadatta going to get a positive result or negative result?
Negative result.
And Bhakti resides within Devadatta. Is Devadatta going to get a positive result or negative result?
A positive result.
These are all the cases of grammar. There is no other case in grammar. In all cases of grammar, when Bhakti is applied, a person gets positive result. Dear devotees, after saying so much, if a person doesn't get convinced for Bhakti Yoga, then only Bhagwan can save that person, dear devotees. After so much of convincing from so many different points of view, Sri Jiva Goswami has given the best possible scriptural logic. Now there is no other argument remaining that Bhakti Yoga is actually the true universal system of benefits for each and every human being. Now, giving up Bhakti Yoga, somebody takes to other paths and somebody remains attracted to other paths, then that is truly the misfortune, and that is the misfortune named Laulyam that Sri Rupa Goswami wanted to say. Dear devotees, therefore, let us not fall prey to Laulyam. Let us be dedicated devotees on the path of Bhakti, one-pointed devotees. Even if we have material attachments, Krishna has said that by the practice of one-pointed Bhakti, they will definitely go away. Therefore, we conclude our instruction today. Atyaharaha prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyam cha shadbhir bhaktir vinashyati. Bhakti is destroyed by these six, namely overeating or overconsumption, over-endeavor for non-devotional gain, fruitless talks, neglecting or forcing rules, associating with worldly non-devotee individuals, and fickleness of mind. Dear devotees, with this, I would like to offer a prayer to Sri Rupa Goswami finally. Atyahari prayasi cha prajalpi niyamagrahi janasangi lolatayuk rupayache kripam tava. Oh Sri Rupa, I am a person who is Atyahari, who is Prayasi, who is Prajalpi, who is Niyamagrahi, who is Janasangi, and who is full of Laulyam. Still, O Sri Rupa, I desire your mercy and your mercy alone, O Sri Rupa Goswami. So I will show this verse and I will show the translation once again, dear devotees, because this is a mirror verse. Sometimes we compose mirror verses. O Sri Rupa, I am a person who is Atyahari, engaged in Atyahar, Prayasi, Prayas, Prajalpi Niyamagrahi, Prajalpa Niyamagrahi, Janasangi, Janasanga, and Lolatayuk. I am full of Laulyam. But Rupa, O Rupa, Yache, I beg for Kripam Tava. I beg for your mercy, O Sri Rupa Goswami. Please, by your mercy, free me of these 6 vices. Dear devotees, thank you very much. Yadatra skharitam kinchit vidvam sah purayantu tat. Yadatra saushthavam kinchit tad guroreva vinay. Yadatra skharitam kinchit. If there are any mistakes in what I spoke, vidvam sah. May the kind and learned devotees purayantu tat, purify it. But yadatra saushthavam kinchit. If there's anything nice in the class, please remember, tat guroreva. It came from Rupa Goswami. It came from the previous acharyas. It came from Srila Prabhupada. It came from the inspiration of all of you. May nahi. It doesn't belong to me. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Hari Parsha Prabhu. What a beautiful verse you composed. Really amazing that we get to have these classes with you. And it's such a boon that you're taking your valuable time to prepare these and to draw from so many sources to educate us in a really deep way on the Upadeshamritam. We're going to move to questions now.
Great.
And we have 40 minutes. Something I was thinking, Prabhuji, is that when food is being served out, we serve everyone their first
Once.
serving and before anyone gets seconds.
Right. Okay.
So if it's okay with you, we'll have everyone ask one question, and once everyone's been served, we can go for second questions. If you have a question, please keep it clear and concise. Try not to spend a lot of time explaining or going into details about your personal life, but try to just pack it into a clear, straightforward question as far as possible. And that will allow everyone to have a chance to ask a question. It'll also make it easier for Prabhuji to answer your question. So first we have Sundara Gopal Prabhu.
Yeah, I think we'll have to allow him to unmute. Just yeah.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Hari Pārṣada Prabhu. Thank you very much for the wonderful class. I have one question which I basically didn't understand that part, the grammatical explanation on Bhakti Yoga. So in that, when the Bhakti Yoga is being compared with others, the verb kills versus offering, the verb offer, we use the different verb. So then how the comparison is straightforward? So that's I'm not quite clear on that, because if you use verb offer, then obviously it will come in favor of Bhakti Yoga. I'm not saying Bhakti Yoga is I totally believe in Bhakti Yoga, but just for understanding that particular aspect of explanation.
Right. So in the grammatical section that we discussed, I often use negative verbs because, see, Prabhu, half the verbs of the material world are negative in nature and half are positive. So, but Bhakti Yoga, let's say you, let's say you take even some positive verb, but still every positive verb will eventually have some negative reaction attached to it. Because in the Bhagavad Gita and in the other literature, it's very clearly written that there is nothing which is all positive or there is nothing which is all negative. It's very clearly indicated from the literature. But if there is something which is all positive, that is bhakti without any negative result. The intention of Sri Jiva Goswami in saying this is that any activity which is done in the spirit of bhakti, it has definitely a positive result. In fact, in the Bhakti Sandarbha, he quotes a verse, and I'd like to show this verse, that even if some negative activities are done, but for the sake of one pointed bhakti, still they become positive activities. So yes, I will show you this verse. This is from Sri Jiva Goswami, quotes Padma Puran, and he says, Man nimittam kritam papam apikshemaya kalpate ma manadritya dharmopi papam syan mat prabhavata. Man nimittam kritam papam. So he quotes a verse where Bhagavan is saying, even a negative activity, but done for the sake of my Bhakti Yoga, apikshemaya kalpate, will protect you. Mam anadritya dharmopi, but neglecting me, even a so-called positive activity, papam syan mat prabhavata, will leave some negative trace by my desire. So this is the meaning, that even if you apply a negative thing and Bhakti Yoga is there, still there will be dharma. But even on a positive thing without Bhakti Yoga will have some trace of adharma. So I hope that message is clear.
Prabhuji, it seemed like you were referencing the idea that in killing a cow, everyone involved in all different ways receives sin.
Right.
And then you were contrasting that with bhakti. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. Or you can take a positive activity also. Let's say a banker earns money. A banker earns money. Doesn't seem like a negative activity. But mostly bankers earn money by sucking in money from various people in the world. Many of the bankers, they earn money not through such legible means. So even though it may externally seem as a positive activity, it has many negative traces behind it. But put bhakti. They say in the 1970s and 1980s, many devotees cheated people to give them books. Now it was cheating. But will it give a negative reaction to those devotees?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Will it give a positive reaction to the person who got cheated?
It could leave a bad impression, but ultimately it's beneficial.
Yeah. So as far as the person's own sukriti is concerned, person's own spiritual life is concerned, they came in contact with a book. They saw Bhagavan, they chanted Bhagavan's names. So his path to perfection has begun. So seemingly some shady practices were there in the 70s and 80s. Some of them may be there even today. But ultimately, because bhakti is there, we are escaping all the negative reactions. Just because the main intention of that activity is bhakti. That is what Sri Jiva Goswami wants to say.
Thank you. Next we have Dipayan.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. I wanted to ask the 11th canto verse which you quoted, closing our eyes and running in bhakti. So that verse and Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatra ki vidhim vina, that verse, Aikantiki Harir Bhakti Rupata Vikalpate, how to understand? Because this verse is saying that even if person doesn't know Shruti Smriti, then he can be successful. Whereas that verse is saying bhakti should be according to Shruti, Smriti, etc. So how to understand? Could you please clarify? Long time I had this doubt, so I can ask today.
Yeah. So I showed a verse from the 11th canto which said, in which Sri Sridhara Swami says in the commentary, Shruti Smriti Ube Netre Vipranam Parikirtite Ekena Vikalah Kano Dvabhyam Andha Prakirtita. Shruti and Smriti are two eyes of the Brahmanas. One who doesn't know one eye is Kana, blind by one eye, and somebody who doesn't know both is blind. But it is said in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu that Shruti Smriti Puranadi, without help of these literature, no matter how one-pointed your devotion appears, it is simply a disturbance to the society. So how is it that without knowing Shruti and Smriti, one can execute Bhakti Yoga? Simply by Guru's instruction. That is what the verse is implying. You run confidently, not by taking a book. You run confidently in the path that Guru shows. Yeah? So that is how. Now, in Jnana Yoga, in Ashtanga Yoga, try to do that without taking help of Shruti and Smriti. In Jnana Yoga, the Guru gives indication, you do this, you do this. But unless and until you acquire Jnana yourself by studying the Shastra, it is impossible to understand Brahman. The Guru may say that, yes, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, everything is Brahma. Unless you meditate on the Mahavakyas, on the great statements, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, unless you personally study the imports of these statements, you cannot become a true Jnana Yogi. You have to do some personal study. In Bhakti Yoga, the Guru says, just chant Jai Radha Madhav Kunj Bihari, just chant Hare Krishna. Somebody may not have any other qualification. He may chant Hare Krishna. There is a very good possibility that such a person, simply by the instruction of the Guru, if they don't commit any aparadhas, if they, follow the instruction of the Guru, there's a very good chance that they will attain perfection in this life. So that is the meaning. Right? So simply by the direction of the Guru, you can run freely on the path of Bhakti Yoga. Right? But doesn't mean that you completely discount Shastra. If you have an opportunity, study Shastra. So don't use Bhakti Yoga as an excuse to discount Shastra. Bhakti Shastra is definitely expected from people who are practicing Bhakti Yoga. It is expected. Not compulsory, it is expected from people who are practicing Bhakti Yoga. Alright? So this is the answer to it. I hope this satisfies.
Next we have Omkar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanut Pranam. Prabhuji, I had a doubt about this verse which you're quoting about how Bhakti gives the adhikar of Bhakti is for everyone. But if we see the context is regarding entrance into the Bhakti. Right. There are statements in Shastras like Muktim Dadati Karichat Smada Bhakti Yogam and then Sudurlabha for the Bhava Bhakti. Right. So in this case, we can understand that the criteria which we were putting for the other paths, it was regarding, yes, it was also regarding entrance, but it was more focused on attaining the goal. But in right. Bhakti, the criteria which we used today, it was regarding only entrance. It right. Slightly indicated that Rupa Goswami wanted to give encouragement to a new person.
Sure. So for those who have, I'll rephrase the question. We were seeing the eligibility for all the paths. We saw the eligibility for Ashtanga Yoga. The eligibility we saw you have to be in a forest, you have to be secluded. So that was the eligibility for entering into Ashtanga Yoga, not perfecting it. Simply entering into Ashtanga Yoga. You can't even enter into Hatha Yoga if you don't go to the forest. There is no entry into Hatha Yoga. In front of a TV, impossible. No matter how much they are fooling you. It's impossible to perform Hatha Yoga in its true sense in front of a TV, in the city, in a home. Jnana Yoga. What is the entry criteria for Jnana Yoga? That a person who becomes a Jnana Yogi must become renounced from karma, must give up all karma. That's the basic entry criteria for entering into Jnana Yoga. Therefore, I said when Adi Shankaracharya accepted Mandan Mishra as an entrant into the path of Jnana, the first thing that he did was give Mandan Mishra sannyas. The first thing that a serious practitioner of Jnana Yoga does to enter into the serious path of Jnana is take sannyas. That is the first thing that a serious practitioner does. Therefore, these are entrance criteria. Exit criteria is Jivan Mukti. He should become, he should become liberated even in this life. That's the exit criteria. Entrance criteria is sannyas. See all the people who become members of Vedanta societies. Let me see all the people who are, I therefore ask, who are heading the Vedanta societies. Are they allowing Grihasthas to head the Vedanta societies? No. Is any Grihastha allowed to become a Shankaracharya of one of the 4 seats in India? No. Is any Grihastha allowed to become a temple president in ISKCON temple, in one of the ISKCON temples? Yes. Why? Most of the ISKCON temple presidents are sannyasis or grihasthas. Tell me.
Yes, that's.
Why? Why this bias towards grihasthas? Because Bhakti Yoga is equal and available for everyone. Now, you said perfection is difficult, obviously. Sudurlabha. It is difficult to attain perfection in Bhakti Yoga because to attain Prema Bhakti is not easy. To enter into Bhakti is easy. To attain Prema Bhakti is not that easy. Rupa Goswami did not shy away from that in the beginning of Bhakti Rasamrita. But as far as entrance eligibility is concerned, I told you entrance eligibility into everything, not exit criteria. Entrance criteria, I told you, for Ashtanga Yoga, for Jnana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. You yourself go and see in the Shastra what is entrance criteria into Jnana Yoga. The first thing you will see is a Jnana Yogi has to give up all karma. First, basic criteria. You know yoga ladder. What is the first step on yoga ladder?
Karma Yoga.
What is the second step?
Nishkam Karma.
What is the step after that?
Jnana.
That means you have to give up all karma yoga, all karma before you enter into Jnana Yoga. That means you have to take sannyas. that's the time when one gives up all karma is when one takes sannyas. So that is the entrance criteria into Jnana Yoga. So therefore, Jivan Mukti Vivek, the literature which I quoted, very clearly said in the very beginning, you take sannyas if you are serious about Jnana. Don't remain a householder if you are serious about Jnana Yoga. Right? Chalo, I hope this satisfies you. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, bro.
Next we have Raj Pradikshit Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Very good. My pranams.
Dandavad Pranam Prabhuji. Thank you for explaining glories of Bhakti Devi and its universality. Prabhuji, I have two questions. First question is, in Jnana Yoga, there is a systematic way, like Ashtanga is given. Vivek, Vairagya, Shamadam Adi, Shat Sampatti, Mumukshitva, Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasana and Samadhi. In Ashtanga Yoga also, Yam, Niyam, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. In Bhakti Yoga also, Adav, Shraddha and Prem. Till Prem, everything is given.
Right.
But is there any such kind of step-by-step progression given in Karma Yoga?
Step-by-step progression in Karma Yoga is not given because in Karma Yoga, what you are doing is basically the activities which you are currently doing, you are simply offering them to Bhagavan. So there is no step-by-step progress. There are only two steps. Step 1, offer your activities to Bhagavan. Step 2, automatically you will become detached from those activities and you will either become eligible for Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. This is the two-step procedure in Karma Yoga. So there is no such thing as step-by-step progress because there are not many steps in Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga caters to the basic human society. And everybody, actually most people in human society are eligible for Karma Yoga also. Because, if they are in the Varnashram system, they can offer their work according to Varna and Ashram to Bhagavan. But Karma Yoga is still very limited in comparison to Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is universal. But Karma Yoga is it doesn't have many intermediate stages because you have to begin from the position that you are in. There are no many higher stages to attain. That is the answer to the query.
This Karma Yogi has to ultimately become Jnana Yogi, this Ashtanga Yogi.
We can come back to your follow-up question, Prabhuji, when everyone's got one chance.
Okay. Yes, sure.
Thank you very much. Sorry to interrupt. Next we have Abhimanyu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, my question was that we saw that if we are changing our philosophy again and again, or we are not having nishtha in one way of practicing something, so that can be called as Laulyam. So is it also not correct to know any other philosophy or commentaries? Because sometimes devotees say that they quote this verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita that Mayavadi Bhashya Sunila Hoy Sarvanash. So how to understand that? And is it can devotees read commentaries of Advaitavad or something to understand Advaita philosophy or any other shastra which is not directly in Bhakti?
Right. So can devotees read other literature, other philosophies, other shastra, such as Advaitavad, Sankhya, Yoga, etc.? Because many times there are negative statements about other literature mentioned in the devotional literature. So the answer to that is that a person who is a newcomer in Krishna Bhakti, newcomer is technically known as Kanishtha Adhikari in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And it's defined very well also. Who is Kanishtha Adhikari? Two factors. His faith is soft and he doesn't have a good grasp on Bhakti literature. These are the two criteria of Kanishtha Adhikari. Such a person acts as a, he tries to grasp the philosophy of others. Big danger, very big danger. The person may transform into a sadhaka of some other philosophy and may completely lose bhakti. A person who is madhyam adhikari, who has very firm faith, one of the two is there, but doesn't have strong knowledge of the bhakti literature. This person also, if he goes into other circles and reads their philosophy, his mind may become disturbed, but he may not leave bhakti so easily. Third person, Uttam Adhikari. Not only is he very firmly fixed in Bhakti Shastra, but he also has very firm faith in the entire process. Now, this person is aware of the entire Siddhanta of Bhakti Shastra. He has read everything from his side first, from the Bhakti literature side first. He is dedicatedly a Bhakti yogi in practice and also in theory. Such a person, when he ventures out while knowing that Bhakti Yoga is the best process for himself as well as other human beings. Then when he looks at other literature, he looks at them as Purva Paksha. What is Purva Paksha? Purva Paksha means, if are they giving some opposing arguments and what answer do we have? Or are other paths supporting Bhakti Yoga? Let me give an example of Ashtanga Yoga supporting Bhakti Yoga. Dear devotees, Bhakti Yoga doesn't support Ashtanga Yoga so much. If you ask the literatures of Bhakti Yoga, what about Ashtanga Yoga? The literatures of Bhakti Yoga says, no, we don't, we don't support Ashtanga Yoga so much. But if you ask Ashtanga Yoga about Bhakti Yoga, then it is very clearly given in Ashtanga Yoga Sutras that there is something called as Ishvara Pranidhanat. Ishvara Pranidhanatva is one of the sutras of Patanjali Yoga Sutras. So I will quote this Yoga Sutra first pad, 23rd Sutra. Ishvara Pranidhanatva. I will show this on the screen. Let me share my screen. So this is Yoga Sutra 1.23. Ishvara Pranidhanatva. So what does Pranidhanat mean? It is Pranidhanat Bhakti Visheshat. So by offering Bhakti to Ishvara, to the Supreme Lord, one can attain Samadhi Phalam. See here, Samadhi Phalam Bhavati. One can attain the same result of Samadhi that one attains through Ashtanga Yoga. So Yoga Sutra certifies Bhakti is a path to attain Samadhi. But Bhakti doesn't say that yoga will let you attain prema of Bhagavan. See, other literatures, you may say, oh, see how broad-minded Yoga Sutra is. It supports Bhakti. Of course, it is supposed to support Bhakti because all the ministers are supposed to support the king. Try to understand this. All ministers are supposed to support the king. But the king doesn't have to support the ministers. Ashtanga Yoga is dependent on Bhakti. Jnana Yoga is dependent on Bhakti. Karma Yoga is also dependent on Bhakti. Why? In all those processes, you need Bhakti. Bhakti towards whom? Bhakti towards your Guru is first and foremost needed to perfect all these processes. Without Bhakti in your Guru, you will never be able to perfect Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga or Karma Yoga. Therefore, bhakti is the king and other processes are ministers. Therefore, other processes will say Jai Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga doesn't have to say Jai to others. So I hope, Prabhu, this is clear. Coming back to your query was whether we can read other. Yes, you can read other literature, but you should know that Bhakti Yoga is the royal highway to perfection. If you are a Bhakti Yogi, you should know this. Keeping that in mind, and if you have properly studied the Bhakti Shastras, then definitely you can venture out. And then definitely you can 100% study and gain knowledge of other systems, because you will use other systems to supplement the path of Bhakti Yoga, not to oppose the path of Bhakti Yoga. So that is my answer to your query. Right.
Next, I have a question, Prabhuji. You quoted a verse about giving up yoga as a form of exercise. It wasn't clear whether the verse was saying, give it up for exercise or give up faith in this as a spiritual path. Is the Shastra against exercise or yoga for exercise?
No. In that section itself, it was saying that sometimes yogis from other paths, they experience bodily distress. So to give up bodily distress, you may take some Ashtanga Yoga, some exercise, something may be there. Don't put faith on it as a process of spiritual advancement, especially not for somebody who has taken to Bhakti Yoga. So that was the context in which Krishna was saying this. Use it as a temporary means to drive away your bodily difficulties. For example, a person feels very tired, a Bhakti Yogi feels very tired, lazy, very lazy because of lifestyle. So Hari Bhakti Vilas also has something called as pranayam. Pranayam means in Hari Bhakti Vilas they teach you how to perform pranayam. Pranayam is 3 steps. Purak, Kumbhak, Rechak. So once a person learns what is pranayam, and once a person learns how to regulate his breath through pranayam, a lot of new energy is gained simply by learning the art of breathing nicely. So these temporary solutions for ensuring that you remain fresh. But this is not to be used as a spiritual path, because we are not Ashtanga Yogis. That is the answer to it. Very good.
Thank you very much. Next we have Krishna Das Patra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yeah.
Am I audible,
Yes.
Prabhuji?
Yeah. Yes. Please go ahead.
Prabhuji, I am a totally new devotee in this path, and I wanted to read the previous Acharya's commentary on Bhagavad Gita. I have read Prabhupada's as it is, and I have also enrolled myself in the Bhakti Shastri course from Mahāprabhu. It is not started yet, but where I can find these books and how many Acharyas have commented, can you please?
If you have read you said you are a new devotee, I am also a new devotee. I am also trying to, this life only I discovered Bhakti Yoga. So new devotee. So Prabhu, I can, if you have read Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, you have a desire to read previous Acharya's commentaries also. And you said you are in touch with Mayapur Institute for the course is about to begin. So you might be in contact with some senior devotee, and you can ask them that you want to read the previous commentaries of previous Acharyas. And if you want to, my suggestion, there is a it seems like you are a native Bengali. Is it correct? Yes. Let me unmute you. Okay. Yeah. Yes. It seems that you are a native Bengali, right?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So if you are a native Bengali, Srila Bhaktivinode Thakura had written two beautiful commentaries on Bhagavad Gita in Bengali. One is called Rasik Ranjani, one is called Vidvat Ranjani, right? So you try to find these two books if you want to read deeply the Bhagavad Gita. The Vidvat Ranjani was Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan's commentaries translation into Bengali, from what I remember. And the Rasik Ranjani was an adaptation of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary in Bengali. So you can try to see this. And from the local Gaudiya Math, because Gaudiya Math is the authentic literature given by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So you can get Bengali translations of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Bhagavad Gita and Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan's Bhagavad Gita. So whatever literature you get authored directly by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur from the Gaudiya Math, those literature are valid to read, but you should consult with that senior devotee with whom you are in touch with. I hope this satisfies your query.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Let's see. Next we have Ananga Mohan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much for such a nice presentation, and especially the verse you have composed. That is very nice.
Because it describes
you described my situation. Prabhuji, my question is, you have given that apadan, that when money is extracted from somebody with his permission and used in the service of the Lord, then it is a bhakti. And while discussing in some previous sessions, we have discussed that bhakti done by the shishya and by the money is not the limb of bhakti. So how to understand this?
Okay. So that which is proclaimed to be Uttama Bhakti, pure Bhakti, simply on the strength of money and disciples, is actually far away from Uttama Bhakti. But doesn't mean that it is not Bhakti. It may not be Uttama Bhakti, but it is still Bhakti. And it will still give benefit. That is the difference. Right? So simply on money, on the strength of money and on the strength of disciples, you can't ensure Uttama Bhakti. That is what Sri Rupa Goswami was saying. But on the strength of money, you can build temples, you can build so many things, and you can get Bhakti which is not Uttama, which may be of lower, lower qualities. But still Bhakti it is, and it will lead to benefit. That is the answer to your question.
And if the money is used for the Vaishnava Seva, then it is under the limb of bhakti.
If it is used for Vaishnava, somebody takes money, somebody just takes money, makes earning money as their goal of life, and they do Vaishnava Seva. That's good, very good. But mainly one will attain perfection by engaging in the primary limbs of bhakti, the 5 primary limbs which Sri Rupa Goswami specifies. Sadhu Sang, Nam Kirtan, Srimad Bhagavat Shravan, Mathura Vas, Shri Murti Sevan. These were 5. Especially Sri Jiva Goswami says, in the age of Kali, all other types of bhakti should be supplemented by Kirtan, Nam Sankirtan, basically. So we may perform Vaishnava Seva, we may perform any other form of bhakti. Supplement it with Nam Sankirtan, supplement it with one of the 5 types of bhakti, especially with Nam Sankirtan. So this is what is needed. Vaishnava Seva is bhakti, very nice. You have to quickly attain Uttama Bhakti, perform one of the 5 types, and compulsorily perform Nam Sankirtan. Right? That's the answer to your question.
Thank you.
Next.
Thank you.
Next we have Bhavya Bhagavan Prabhu.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, my question is, bro. So my question is like you were mentioning that one can study other spheres of scriptures also. I mean, so Prabhu, like in Canto 1, it's mentioned that one who is a Bhagavad speaker, who is giving a Bhagavatam talk, he should be very well adept with all the 6 schools of philosophies, like given by Gemini and others, right? So Prabhu, I mean, how as Bhakti Yoga practitioners should we, I mean, Prabhupada writes that in Canto 1, but I mean, I can say about at least myself that I am not very well versed with that. So Prabhu, is it very important that we should know all those 6 schools of philosophies, or how should we take it, Prabhu? Thank you.
In one of the purports of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada says that one should know the 6 systems of philosophy before one sits on the Vyasasana. So, or a person sitting on the Vyasasana is expected to, basically. This is expected to know, but not everybody may know compulsorily. 6 systems of philosophy are good when they are studied after studying our Bhakti literature. Please try to understand this. First and foremost, first priority is to study the literature that is available in the Sampradaya. Because through this literature, we will learn to understand how to apply 6 systems of philosophy in Bhakti Yoga. It's very important, because otherwise, if we study independently 6 systems of philosophy, then where do we apply it? Where do we find application of the 6 systems of philosophy? So the 6 systems of philosophy have to be applied in either proving the superiority of Jnana Yoga, or proving the superiority of Karma Yoga, or proving the superiority of Bhakti Yoga. Now, I have already told you that universal yoga is Bhakti Yoga. Easiest yoga is Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, first and foremost, one should become acquainted with the literature of the Bhakti tradition. It's very important to study those literature, because it was Bhakti Devi who transformed our lives, not the 6 systems of philosophy. Our lives were transformed not by studying Jaimini's Mimamsa Sutras, or Gautam's Nyaya Sutras, or Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Our lives were transformed by studying Narad Muni's Bhakti Sutras. So it is very important that we should first and foremost give priority to Bhakti literature. Through Bhakti literature, we will learn a lot of principles of Mimamsa, Nyaya, Yoga, Vedanta, etc. But once we understand, once the main pillar is fixed, then all other surrounding pillars can be installed. But first and foremost, we should read Bhakti literature very thoroughly. And this means reading the literature of Srila Prabhupada as well as all the previous acharyas of the Sampradaya. Everybody's literature should be read, understood, harmonized perfectly, and then one can definitely go ahead and venture out and study other literature with the aim of supplementing Bhakti Yoga. So that is my answer to your query.
We have just a few minutes left, but we can open up for follow-up questions now.
Yeah, so we will ask Raj Parikshit Prabhu. He was the one whom we, Raj Parikshit Prabhu, you had a follow-up question?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, please.
In last class, in last class, you said Pakhandis means those who reject 3 Vedas.
Right.
And if we see in 9.20, Traividya Mam Somapa Putapapa, there Prabhupada translate Traividya as 3 Vedas. Right. And again we see the verse number 17th. Vedyam Pavitram Omkaram Riksama Yajurevacha. Here also Lord is excluding Atharva Veda. So why you said Pakhandis are, means they reject 3 Vedas, and here also there are Traividya means 3 Vedas, and Lord is why he is excluding Atharva Veda. But in the line of the purport, last line, 17th verse, Prabhupada is including Atharva Veda also. So how to understand this?
Atharva Veda is often understood as Parishisht. Parishisht means supplementary. Therefore, sometimes only 3 are counted. In the 3, the 4th is included as Parishisht. As Parishisht means as supplement. Therefore, sometimes Vedas are said as 3, and sometimes Vedas are said as 4. When it is divided as 4, it is according to function of the priest. There are 4 priests: Udgata, Hota, Advaryu, and Brahma. So these are 4 priests which are listed. So when it is divided according to the functions of the 4 priests, it is divided as 4 Vedas. But in itself, it is divided as 3, and Atharva is considered as the Parishishta, the remaining portion. So therefore, 3 includes Atharva, and that's why Srila Prabhupada also includes it. I hope that satisfies your query.
And last short question. Means a Karma Yogi has to accept either Bhakti Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, or Jnana Yoga.
100%. Karma Yoga by itself is not a platform of perfection. As long as you don't give up material desires, there is no perfection in any system of yoga. Right.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again, our dear Hari Prabhu, for a wonderful class. And I'll invite all the devotees to unmute and share a big Haribol and thank you for Prabhuji.
Oh, I think you'll have to ask everybody to unmute. Just a minute.
Yeah, so everyone has to unmute if you want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Prabhu ki.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Looking forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you. Likewise, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.